guys, Team Moonux here. I just wanted to show you guys my Maliss deck profile. I've been playing it for a little while now, and I thought it would be good to share it with you guys. To start, I have the main deck monsters. With the Maliss, I have 1 Domos, 2 Rabbit, 2 Chessie, and 3 Matcha. The pre-standard ratios, I decided to cut down on the Chessie cats to make more space for non-engine and to keep the deck closer to 40, but I do think changing the 3 March Hair to a 3rd Chessie cat and leaving it at 2 March Hair might be a reasonable choice because 2 Chessie cat pairs with more of the 2 card combos in the deck. I played 2 Underground, 1 Terraforming, 1 Gold Star, and then the 3 Trap cards. Also pretty normal, it means I have more starters and TB11 lets you play through hand traps a lot better. It might be noticeable that I don't play Mirror. Mirror is instead in my side deck. I decided to not main deck Mirror anymore because I feel that Mirror a lot of time is actually a brick in your hand, and I don't think it doesn't really pair well with combos. I do think it can come up sometimes in the Fuel Alliance game 1, and it does go into your deck going first pretty much every time you side deck, but going second the card isn't great because it requires you to use a Maliss effect, it requires you to have a Maliss in hand, and the Imperm effect isn't great against everything except Draco Tail, which I do think this deck already has a pretty decent matchup into, so I don't think the card's particularly needed going second. For the Agnes's, I play a slightly different lineup than most people do. Instead, I play 3 backup, 2 wizard, and 1 AI meet you. The 3 backup is obviously standard, but I decided to play 2 wizard and the meet you because now that the deck doesn't have splash damage, sometimes doing combos for hand traps is really difficult. Stuff like Underground plus a normal summon doesn't beat Imperm anymore because you can't make splash damage and you've already used your normal spect. And it's similar stuff like that. It also gives you more ways to do 2 card combos. Since the deck's lost out on the second Dormouse name, some of the monsters, and then like the splash page 2 card combos, the deck doesn't always have the combos it needs. So by playing 2 wizard, it means wizard plus any Maliss normal summon is always full combo, even through a hand trap, and same for AI meet you. But instead of playing the 3rd wizard, I meet you gives you the optimal thing to go for backup instead of like having to go for wizard, because wizard plus normal summon Ash isn't full combo compared to normal summon Ash activate I meet you grab backup, which is a bit different. And then for the non-engine, I played 1 Magnemite, 1 Jurisum, 1 Shifter. I decided to play the Bestials because they're extenders in this deck. I don't actually think the Bestials are great hand traps right now, but they are quite nice into Mitsurugi cards and Yumi monsters, which I do think is this deck's worst matchup. And the Shifter is obvious, like I don't think there's a good reason to play the deck outside of Shifter. Like I do think the deck's strong, but I think Shifter is like the big selling point for this deck. As there's not really a matchup in the format that Shifter is not really strong into. I also played the 3 Fuas. This card's needed in the format, it breaks a lot of decks. The 3 Ash, also standard, you need to beat Charmies, and it's also good against Draco Tail, which just makes this deck's matchup even better. The 3 Droll, I also don't think this card's good in this deck because it turns off your MTP interaction, it means you can't draft Whitebinder. But Charmies are obviously difficult for this deck, and Droll helps that because you can do a lot of your combos under Droll pretty easily. So if I can normal summon a monster, make a Lingering with a draw card, then I can draw them, and then just combo anyway after the fact. And also it's a good card going second into Mitsurugi Yumi, which I do think is this deck's worst matchup. It is quite a strong card. 3 Super Poly, I think this deck needs to main deck 1 breaker at least, and I think Super Poly is probably the best one right now for this deck, because it's probably the best card at breaking a Mitsurugi Yumi board, because it doesn't lose to, or any Yumi board to be fair, because it doesn't lose to the Apophis stuff, and it also always gives you a body. Like you can argue that the Maliss names lock you out of it, but I think that's not very relevant because you always just do this as your first section anyway. I played 1 Callby, also for Charmies, but for hand traps like Bell, that can stop like you when you only open 1 Underground. That's also a good go second card because you can call by Snatchies, you can call by Murakumo, and stuff like that. And then 3 Impulse, obviously if you can play this card you should, this card's really good. It also makes your Draco Tail matchup even better. So it's like, versus Draco Tail, I have 9 cards in my deck going second that are just really strong into it. I don't think Fua is like crazy, but if I'm getting 1 to 2 draws off of this Fua, I think it's done enough of the job. It also means that they might not commit into the Seals lines, which is also really good because I think that's like the main interaction against this deck. And that's it for the main deck. It's a clean 40. I think the only thing I'd reasonably change is maybe the Super Polys because of Draco Tail being a relevant matchup, and also maybe changing 1 one of the March Hares into a third Chesty Cat because Chesty Cat combos better with some of the cards in the deck. Like Bestials, like March Hare plus Bestial isn't combo, but Bestial plus Chesty Cat is. And then for the extra, I played one Echo Talker. I played one Access Codes for the higher than link freeze. I would play Firewall in this deck if I had the space for it, but there's nothing I'd really want to cut from the deck right now while I'm playing Super Poly targets. But I think if I was to cut Super Poly for something else, I would then play the Firewall. For the link freeze, we obviously play the 3 Maliss links. There's literally nothing you can argue about this, there's no conversation about it. And that's it for link freeze. For link 2s, I played one SP, one Dark, one Haggard, one Wicked. I think this is all relatively standard. Like, you need Haggard now because there's no Splash Mage. Wicked gets you your backups. SP is obviously a really strong card, and it helps you combo. It's another card I would play another one of if I didn't have to play those Super Play targets. Like, if I was to cut the Guru and the Mudragon that I play, I would cut it for a Firewall and a second SP. Because sometimes turn 1, you want to use SP to try combo, and to play through hand traps. Like, if my Ransom gets interacted with and I have a name, I can't really make Splash Mage anymore. So sometimes making SP to manage to Ransom like you used to do through the blinds is what you're supposed to do. You could cut Dark for like a Firewall or a second SP, but I think Dark's really relevant into Mitsurugi Yumi, because if they don't Murakumo it, you now have access to taking the Murakumo from grave, you can take a Bestial, and it can help you get to your link freeze a lot easier through hand traps. But yeah, I do think it's probably the most cuttable card in this extra deck right now, but other than that, I don't think there's much else. For my Link 1s, I played 2 Lingaribo, 1 Owl Mirage, and 1 Link Spider. One of these Linkaribos could be a Link Disciple, if you care more about Lantia, and also an extra attribute of Access Code. But I feel like now that Dracotail has become a lot more popular in the format, I think the second Lingaribo is probably more important because it now interacts with these Dracotail trap cards. The Owl Mirage has been standard since the backup card, since the Ignises came out. It means you can always run a hand trap and be able to turn on your Ignises in your hand. And the Link Spider's for Nib. Like, obviously Nib's come back into the format more, Dracotail being more popular. But I think that this deck struggles a lot into the Nibiru, and Link Spider helps it a lot, which is also another reason why I played the 2 Wizard when I meet you, because it means my Nib lines are better, because if I don't have the way to get to back up before, like, I get hit by Nib, it means I can now just make a Link Spider, search on my meet you, or summon a Wizard, and I'll have 2 extra cards in my deck that help me beat that Nibiru. And for the last 2 cards, Garura and Mudragon, I think these are the 2 best Super Play targets. Obviously, if you wanted a better matchup to Dracotail with the Super Poly, you could play Sekishira and Dragon by cutting maybe the Dark or other cards like that. But I think that the Super Poly is like fine as just discard fodder into that matchup a lot of the time. Especially as I don't actually think it breaks the board that well. But you need to play both of these for Mit Yumi and Pure Yumi, because if you just play Garura, you can't fuse off an Alkalite. And if you only play Garura, you can't fuse off 2 Yumi names that they'd use for a Synchro Summon. Same for like Pure Mitsu and Maliss, other matchups like that. As like the bonus of playing Super Play over other breakers is it also a good go first card to end on, because you pretty much always have the discard fodder given this deck draws free pretty much every turn. So it's just good to have these 2, especially in the other rogue decks that maybe have really difficult boards to break. And then for the side deck, I think the side deck can change very much. I think if there could be a few things I might change, but I think the side deck now is pretty normal. I played 3 Lantia. I do think you can cut down on the Lantias, but I think that Maliss is still a relevant matchup to think about. And the Maliss board going for second is really difficult to break, even with stuff like Super Poly in my deck. But I do think if you were to cut a card from this side deck, it would probably be the Lantias, or maybe cut them down to like 2 and try to find space other cards that you might want to play. I played 3 Bell. I decided to play Bells over Retaliancies because I feel like now that they play the branded cards, Retaliancy is actually a really easy card to out, especially as not people know how to out that card. So instead of having Bell to hit the trap cards, hitting Famina add back, and other stuff like that, I feel like Bell's a lot more of a worthy interaction. And also Bell works into stuff like Maliss, Mitsurugi, Yumi, other decks like that, because you can hit the Surprise, you can hit the Murakumo effect engrave, you can hit the Underground, which can be a big thing to stop them if like their hand's really weak. I think Bell's a lot better. I would main Bell, but this card conflicts a lot of Impulse, because I feel like a lot of the time you're wanting to Impulse before you would Bell, which is why I wouldn't main deck the card. But I think side decking it's really good. I played 3 Dark Ruler. This is mainly to take Super Poly out for certain matchups where Super Poly isn't great, and also it's still really strong into Mit Yumi, which again I do think is this deck's worst matchup. So having a Dark Ruler is really strong a lot of the time. And then I played 2 Power 1-ofs. I played a Talent and a Mirror. The talents are just go for going first. If I get charming, ripping their hands really strong, or maybe I've bricked and I need to like try bait them into charming me, so I draw 2. Because like if I know someone hand job, they're probably going to charming me most of the time because they're going to think I'm going to go for an Almirage line, which makes the talents really good. And the mirror, because I do think this card is still really good, and I think it's really important for some of them to go first lines. But I don't feel like I'd want to keep this in my deck going second, because I don't think the card's the strongest going second. I think if there was a matchup where you'd argue keeping it in, it's probably Draco Tail because of hitting the Atalion. But I don't think it's crazy relevant. I played 3 different dimensional grounds. I think this card's a lot better than D-Fissure in this deck, because sometimes if I brick, I want to just be able to set the DDG and pass, and then next turn I'm no longer under the lock. Because even though this deck can play under these like graveyard effects, it's not great. Like I can't do a lot of the extension I want. Sometimes going for OTK lines is a lot harder. So being forced to stick under the shifter isn't always the best. And another thing is you can out-fissure. Like some yummy decks are playing Double Cyclone now, and if Fissure's like standard in Maliss, they might choose to play the Double Cyclone because this card's pretty much an FTK against them. But it's mostly the fact that I don't have to play under this card on my own turn. And it also means I don't have to worry about activating at the end of my turn, getting interacted with, and then struggling to play after the fact. And for the last card, I'm going to play 1 anti-spell. I think this card's insane right now. Like, obviously with Drake Tail being the most popular matchup, this card's busted, they can't beat this card. Like, if I have 1 MTP plus an anti-spell, that's probably game a lot of the time. And since I don't really play that many spells myself, I don't have to worry about being under the anti-spell. It's also good because there's breakers in the format, stuff like Droplet, and going against Mitsuru Yumi, it turns off their Mitsurugi cards, which is normally what breaks the Maliss board, if they can, is normally Mirakumo forcing too much interaction out, or people overcommitting into the Mirakumo and trying to stop it. That's it for the side deck though. That is pretty much it. I will show you a 1-card Dormouse line that is really good, but apart from that, I think the list won't change too much for the upcoming events like the Remote Duel YCS and maybe regionals I go to. I think this is really strong. I have played a lot of it, and it's worked really well for me. But in future, the only things I consider changing realistically are maybe the Super Polys for a different card. I could see different Dimension Grounds being a different Go First Floodgate, and I could see if I cut the Super Polys, I'd play second SP and Fireball.
Black Friday is live and Dueling Guard is dropping their biggest deals of the year. Buy 2, get 1 free, plus up to 40% off qualifying products like the Player Series boxes and the 1-player playmats. Use the link at the top of the description to get an extra 15% off, exclusive only here. Whether you're grinding regionals or styling on locals, this is the perfect time to upgrade your setup before everything sells out. Dueling Guard and Team Moonox, crafted for competitors. Chosen by the X.
But for the 1-card Dormouse line, it's just a Dormouse plus like any blank card works for your backup discard. You go normal Dormouse, Dormouse effects, you banish a White Rabbit from your deck, and then you go White Rabbit effects, you summon it to your boards, you go White Rabbit effect to set a track card from deck. You always set the TB11 here. And then you can go Link 2 into a Haggard Lizardos. And then you can go Haggard Lizardos effect to banish the Dormouse to target itself, and then Dormouse effect to summon itself back. You can then Link 3 into Maliss Red Ransom. And then you can go Red Ransom effect, you can search Underground. I also think here you can search the Mirror if you play it, because you don't actually need the Underground to do your combo. But this could also be a discard for backup if this card in your hand is like a hand trap that you really don't want to discard. You would then activate the TB11, would banish the Red Ransom, and you would summon a Chesty Cat from your deck. And then you go Red Ransom effect, so you summon itself back to the board, and you would pay 9 to banish a Marcher from deck. And then you can go Marcher effect to add itself back to hand. You can now link 2 into a Sideburst Wicked. You can now go Marcher effect in hand, special itself out to the board by banishing the Chesty Cat. You could also use Underground to banish Chesty Cat and not have to use your Marcher in hand. which would mean that by keeping Marcher in hand, you now play hand traps slightly better. But it's kind of dependent on what you're after, because a lot of the time if you haven't been hand trapped up to this point, you're probably safe, and you're now beating Nibiru because your Wicked's getting you back up into Wizard. And then you go Chain Link 1 Wicked, banishing a Dormouse from your graveyard. You banish Dormouse here because if you banish Rabbit, it means you can't go Binder, banish the Rabbit from grave, so it's not back into MTP. And you can always recycle Dormouse with Crypta or GWC. And then you go Chain Link 2 Chesticat and pay 300 to summon itself back out to your board. And then you would resolve the Wicked and you would search a backup at Ignister. You can then either choose to go Chesticat, banish the Underground and draw 2 cards, or you can set up backup to search Wizard to find your deck more. A lot of time here, I would go backup effects first. So I'll go backup effect, this one itself, and then backup effect to search a Wizard. And then discard a card, so you discard your blank. If this card was also a really good card you didn't want to discard, you could Chesticat draw first to try to find a better card to discard, like a Charmy or other deck cards. So now you'll go Chessie effect, banish this to just draw 2 blanks. You can then link 3 into a Maliss Hearts of Crypta. And then you can link 3 again into your Maliss Q White Binder. And then on summon, you can go White Binder effects. You can banish 1 Hearts of Crypta and your TB11. You banish TB11 here to give you a better shuffle back off your Crypta, which means you can recycle it better. With Rabbit, means you don't have to bind or reset it if you need the card. And then you'll go Crypta effect to summon itself back to the field. You would then go Wizard effect to summon itself back, because you have to do it here, because now you would be going Crypta effect to banish, to set from grave for our deck. You would summon back a Chesticat. And if you did this first, if you Crypta shuffle back to banish this first, you would no longer have it some Cyber Sponsor turn from the extract, which means you wouldn't be able to win it. You could then go Binder effect to set from deck. You should probably go Binder effect first to play around Nibiru better, because if they do it here, you're kind of screwed, so that's my mistake, sorry. You would set the GWC, and then you go Wizard effects. You would now go Crypta effect, shuffle back either Dormouse or TB11 or Underground. It could be any of them. All of them are arguable. I normally do Underground or TB11 because I want my Dormouse to be stayed in rotation with GWC, but I think either or is fine. I would shuffle back Underground here first though, because it gives you better follow-up. You would then draw any blank cards, so you've now drawn 3 cards. No, sorry. You banish White Binder, and then you go White Binder effect, special itself back, and then you've now drawn 3 cards. You would then finish your combo by linking for 5 to make your Accord Agnister over your Crypta, and then go effect on summon to summon back 2 Maliss names. So you switch back your White Binder, your Red Ransom. I do it in this order because I want my Crypta to be under my Accord, so my Crypta can't be negated. And I always want my Binder on the far zone, because that means if I'm ever specialing a Maliss name like Dormouse or Marcher, it's always going to be summoned to my White Binder zone. Because the White Binder is always going to be the Maliss name I care more about, because this is the one that has actual interactions, compared to Ransom, which doesn't. Ransom is just a follow-up piece. And then my opponent's side, you have your Crypta banish, you have your Accord to tribute your White Binder, to negate and banish, you can GWC back the White Binder, and then go White Binder effect, you can banish 2 of their Kais and your Rabbit, and then when your Rabbit summons back, you can Rabbit effect to set a MTP, and then you can MTP banish White Binder to then search and banish. You will pretty much always search Marcher, and then your Binder effect can summon itself back, and you can draw another card. If you need to GWC to get to your MTP before you Accord effect, you can GWC back the Rabbit, then Rabbit set MTP, and then you can go MTP effect to banish the Binder, to draw, to add banish, and then effect summon back and draw, and then you can negate something. Or, instead of banishing, but in that order it's slightly worse, but it's very dependent on how your opponent tries to play it into your balls. But that is one Dormouse combo, and that is the combo that I do with Dormouse every time. It plays through Nibiru the best, because if they hold the Nibiru to the Wicked point, you've now guaranteed beat the Nibiru. And if they do it beforehand, you have a lot of cards that can extend through it. Like, if you have a backup or a wizard or an AI meet you, you can summon Link Spider, and then activate the backup or the wizard effect to summon itself from hand. If you had field spells, you haven't used your Chessy Cat effect yet, so you can special back the Chessy Cat and then extend with a card in your hand, like March Hare. And so on and so forth. I think Maliss is a really good pick into the format right now. Lancey is still not the most popular card in people's side decks, and this deck plays really well into Draco Tail because of having the free impulse, free Ash, and post side deck you have the bells. I think Meet Yummy is still a weird matchup for this deck, which is why a lot of the non-engine and my side deck is stacked towards it. But I do think it is still a very beatable matchup because Meet Yummy, personally, I think it has the most variance matchup, which means a lot of the time you can win game by just your opponent not opening well. I do think this deck does have some slight variance issues, but I think I've maxed out the consistency as well as I could by adding more 2-card combos to the deck. I'm maxing out as much as I can on 1-cards. I decided not to play Allure because I feel like a lot of the time Allure makes you worse into draw. Because even though draw doesn't heavily hurt this deck, I do think sometimes comboing through it is kind of weird because you don't have access to your backups or your Ransom Search. But you could play Allure if you really wanted to. I just don't think it's great in this deck right now, especially because it also means I have to use Maliss early, which sometimes isn't the best thing to do. Other than that, I do quite like Maliss' format, and I probably will be taking it to the remote duel YCS on the first week of December. But other than that, I have nothing more to say, other than we next out.